Welcome you back to the Patrick Netherton Show, 1130 The Tiger. He's Rogers, I'm Patrick. We're pleased to welcome in an old friend, now at Fox 17 in Nashville, whose alma mater is going through some things right now. He is Dave Foster. Dave, how are you, brother?
Patrick, how are you doing?
Well, I was good until Rogers has been just auditorially beating me up the entire day with Lonesome Loser and Lonely Boy, and I'm waiting for Hey There Lonely Girl, and I don't know. He's killing me, Dave. I know I'm single. I get it.
Well, I'll tell you, first of all, happy birthday.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Second of all, I can tell you what he was laughing about there in the break.
Okay.
Because he told me it was your birthday, and I said, oh. And I said, I can remember when Patrick was an intern at KTBS.
Oh, yeah. Ed Baswell.
Going back probably 25 or 26 years ago.
Yep.
And I said, and he thought he knew everything then, too.
Mm-hmm.
So nothing's really changed.
No.
In a quarter century.
Thank you, Mr. Know-It-All.
That's why I have a Thank You, Mr. Know-It-All drop, for goodness sakes. That's what it's there for. Dave, look, I don't know what the heck is going on up there, but when I figure out that the Hamburglar is the biggest villain in college football this year on Rocky Top, there's something going wrong, man. What is happening up there?
Well, it's been going on for a long time. It really, the arc of this story is longer than just what's happened in the last, week or the last year or the last 3 years, or this goes back really to when Phil Fulmer was fired as the head coach and Lane Kiffin was hired, and he was only there a year, and it really set things on a path that has taken Tennessee to where it is. And if you think about it, Tennessee has really not had a normal head coaching hire since then. You could kind of argue that Butch Jones maybe was the closest to normal. Every other hire has either been a late hire in the coaching cycle, or it's been a hire under a cloud, or it's, in this case, whatever this is going to be going forward. I saw Dan Patrick drop that McDonald bomb a little bit earlier today, which has gotten a lot of social media laughs.
Yeah. I mean, are they legitimately,
I'll say this,
are they giving bags of cash to recruit? I mean, look, we all know every program that has success, especially SEC programs, Big 12, the Power 5, they're giving money to recruits, okay? If you think your program doesn't do it, you're just turning a blind eye to it. It happens everywhere. It's just not McDonald's bags of cash out in the open, typically.
Well, let's be real about it. This is going on, and it's been going on a long time. The $100 handshake has been a thing in college football, really, but SEC is probably the master of it over, I don't know, 50 or 60 years, going back way before you and I. And the McDonald's bag is good for a laugh. I don't know if it's true or not true, or where, he also, keep in mind, he also said that Jason Witten was the candidate for the job.
Right.
Which, is so who knows? I don't know who he's talking to or what his deal is. But, it's the reality of it. I mean, a lot of this staff, Pruitt and Brian Niedermeyer, one of the assistants fired, both came from the Alabama staff. So, I'm sure at Alabama they were above board, and then all of a sudden went to Tennessee and just came up with this, right?
Right.
Nobody believes that.
Yeah. No, look, again, if you don't think your program is doing this, you're just burying your head in the sand. It's going on everywhere. The major difference is, and this is why when this happened with Will Wade last year, right? He's caught on a wiretap offering making a strong ass offer to Javonte Smart. And everyone's like, well, we know that Bill Self was doing it at Kansas. And yeah, they are. But they're not dumb enough to be the guy on the phone actually making the deal, right? That's the difference. Is Nick Saban is not the guy on the phone making the deal with the recruits. He's got people that do that. And he can have plausible deniability. But when you have the level of dysfunction that's going on right now, Pruitt's lawyers threatening to sue, saying he got fired before the findings ever came in, all of this stuff. And then you add to that the Dan Patrick report that they were handing people cash, handing recruits cash in a McDonald's bag, it just really makes the program look bad, Dave. I mean, this is a PR nightmare for the Volunteers.
And it's been that way. And again, that's, back to that specifically to Tennessee, that longer arc. When Lane Kiffin left under a cloud with Ed Orgeron, Orgeron was the one who, when Kiffin left, the new recruits were coming in and was phoning them, telling them not to go to class so they could try to get them to go to USC when Kiffin left. And
right.
So this has been going on a long time. It's gone through Derek Dooley and Butch Jones and, Jeremy Pruitt now, and it's really a top-down problem. There's been a lot of problems with stability, even outside of the athletic department. Chancellor, president, there's been a lot of in and out there, a lot of in and out through the athletic directors that's led down to the football coach. And Tennessee needs stability, and they do have a chancellor that's there and a president that's been there for a couple of years, and then all of a sudden they get this problem. And then you've got the Philip Fulmer question. Yes, they said that Philip Fulmer doesn't know anything about these compliance issues or this investigation, and yet at the same time, he's retiring suddenly.
Yeah.
So, it's one of the two things. He's either retiring because he just doesn't want to deal with the mess going forward, or he's retiring because they're giving him a graceful exit. We'll probably never know the answer to what the truth is, but the repercussions are you need a new head football coach and you need a new athletic director.
My question is, which one gets filled first?
The AD. They said yesterday the AD gets, and I will say that is the right thing to do.
Yeah, I agree.
Get the AD, get the football coach. That way the football coach knows that the AD in place is the one that hired them. And for once, I think they're actually going to do that in the right order, which, as I said, I think that's a strong signal from the chancellor, even though there was definitely some pearl clutching going on if you listened to the press conference yesterday about integrity and doing things the right way. And, it sounds good, but again, this is the SEC, and if you want to keep up with everybody else, you're going to have to play by the same rules.
Do you suspect that this is going to get uglier with Pruitt before it gets better?
I think that he will fight it, and depending on how scorched earth he wants to go. I mean, we know Jeremy Pruitt wants to coach again, right?
Yeah.
So I'd be surprised if he turns it into an entire scorched earth. He's probably just going to try to negotiate a buyout. That's the thing, a settlement.
Yeah.
Let's say. Something that doesn't cost Tennessee too much money, but makes it worth it for him to go to another, school and be a defensive coordinator somewhere. So my guess is this works its way into a position where, keep in mind, Tennessee, that buyout was going to be huge. It was probably in the neighborhood of, with those two assistants and him, we're probably talking $14, $15 million.
Yeah.
So if they get that down to whatever that is, 20% of that or 25% of that, that's money you can use towards somebody new. If you can avoid probation or a lengthy postseason bowl ban, which, by the way, Tennessee took itself out of the bowl this past year, it'd be fortunate if they could say, hey, how about last year? We took ourselves out. I don't know. Who knows how that'll play out. But if they can do that and they don't spend a lot of money, then you're set up in a position to hire an AD, and there's a good crop of head coaches out there right now. You can convince one to go to Knoxville.
Well, the one that everyone seems to want is the guy that seems to be the least likely to get the job. That was another rumor that Dan Patrick floated out there, that basically the SEC has told Tennessee, don't hire Hugh Freeze, that we don't want him back in the league right now. Who knows what the validity of that is, if at all. But do you think with this controversy that is kind of embroiling them right now, that Tennessee has to make somewhat of a safe hire, at least off the field, a guy that they know has integrity, that's not going to bring, shame to the program off the field?
I would be highly surprised if Hugh Freeze is anywhere near this job. And they really sent that signal out during that press conference yesterday with all their talk about winning the right way, integrity, and stunned and surprised by, these recruiting violations. that was a strong signal that Hugh Freeze is not going to be the guy. So you're probably looking at somebody with a much cleaner track record. And there are some of the names that are out there have some ties to the state. So, if you can convince one of those guys to come, or if you want to go into the well, with some of the more established guys, I don't know, find out what Gus Malzahn's doing, or Tom Herman, or, one of those guys. Chadwell at Coastal Carolina is back from East Tennessee. So, you've got some options if you want to go out and try to make a play for some of these coaches.
Yeah, talking to Dave Foster from Fox 17 in Nashville. So I think people maybe don't understand, Dave, that Tennessee is really one of those jobs that when things are good, I mean, other than the fact that it's kind of I don't want to say it's tough to get to because there's so many SEC schools that are in smaller cities. Knoxville's not ideally located, next to a big city or right near a big city. It's kind of in the middle of nowhere to some degree. But other than that, Tennessee is a program, especially in football and in basketball with Thompson Bowling, that should be, facilities wise, they don't take a backseat to anybody. They should be a school that should be competing for championships year in and year out because they've got everything you want in a Power 5 school.
If you dropped back to 15 years ago, trying to convince people of what you just said would seem ridiculous. Of course, everything you said. But firing Fulmer and now going through this parade of coaches and subpar performance on the field, you have to talk people into why Tennessee's a great job. It's got 103,000. It's got a huge stadium. It's got a rabid fan base. It makes a lot of money. It's got everything you need except for performance on the field and a track record of recently being a coach's graveyard. They've got a tradition of winning. They've got tons of resources, and it really, I'm convinced to this day, it just will take one right hire to turn this the other way.
To me, the question is the right hire, though, the AD or the football coach?
I think it's both.
You think it's both?
I think because the ADs have been poor as well, which has contributed to this. There have been a few good basketball hires. I will say Rick
Barnes was as big a steal in college basketball as we've seen in the last couple of decades.
Absolutely. Huge home run, and the Tennessee basketball program is showing the fruits of that.
Talking to Dave Foster from Fox 17 in Nashville. All right, so do you have a feel for what you think they do athletic director wise? Do you is there a short list, or is that even something that we always kind of have in our mind? Okay, who are the next coaches that we think can move up? You hear the Tennessee job, Jamie Chadwick at Coastal, Billy Napier at ULL, and then obviously Gus Malzahn you mentioned, who's doesn't have a job right now. All these guys that are available. But do we think the same way with athletic directors? Do you have in your mind, hey, here are the 2 or 3 AD, assistant ADs somewhere else, or an AD at a smaller school that you think could move up and get that job? Or is it, hey, we're all going to be surprised when they show up?
With the AD, I think that one's a little tougher. And obviously, the chancellor will have some input into that. I will say, they went to Fulmer this last time, and there was some comfortability with that, because if you remember back to the guy who hired Johnny Majors and hired Fulmer, it was Doug Dickey, who was a former coach. So Fulmer was a former coach. Doug Dickey presided over a very successful time at Tennessee during the 80s and 90s, or at least the early 90s to mid-90s. And so Fulmer being in that position felt pretty good. But I think in today's college sports landscape, you really need somebody who's on the AD track and not perhaps a former coach. So I think getting somebody in there who's had experience doing that. And then at that point, I don't think you need to go for, I would go established, because there really has not been a head coaching football hire at Tennessee from what we would consider now one of these Power 5 schools since Johnny Major.
Yeah.
You're going back a long, long way. Fulmer wasn't. And Kiffin, well, he came from the NFL, okay. But, after that, you got Dooley and Butch Jones and now Pruitt. So, and at that point, you're back in the mid-70s when you go back to me. So I would go get somebody who has Power 5 coaching experience and then let them use all these resources.
I agree. I think, again, it's a sleeping giant job. And let's be honest, Dave, right now, the East is gettable, right? Georgia's not far and away better than everyone. Florida's not far and away better than everyone. Tennessee should be in that mix year in and year out to win the East.
Yeah, and I think also what Tennessee needs to do, what Fulmer was really good at doing, is picking up the best players of the state of Tennessee and then going and getting the best player from South Carolina, Georgia, Louisiana. You got some good players from Louisiana. Going to, Alabama and getting somebody. Getting the best guy or one of the best three guys out of the other states, plucking people. And Tennessee has a huge recruiting budget, too. So if the new coach could come in and do that, then I think that they could be successful with them. But again, we're on number 4 going into number 5, 5th hire since 2009. So what'll happen next, I'm not sure. But the last 10 years don't look very good.
If I'm going to be honest, I think that Tennessee should hire as its AD whoever hired you at Fox 17, because clearly that's a good decision maker who knows talent.
Ken Smith is his name, and I believe he's available right now.
Okay.
So, it'll be interesting to seeing what happens going forward. I will say that there's not a lot of faith right now. It's a little bit low, so somebody needs to come into that program and pick it up.
Yeah. Well, look, I hope for the best, man. It's hard. It's hard watching your buddies have their programs struggle, and we've all been through it with our various programs that we've been involved with. But it'd be nice to see Tennessee relevant nationally again, and big games being played at Neyland Stadium. And as you mentioned, look, Neyland was over 100,000 before that was a regular thing on colleges. LSU was still at 60,000 when Neyland was at 100,000. Alabama was still at 70,000 when Neyland was at 100,000. This is a tradition-rich program that should be in the mix every year in and year out. And I certainly hope for the sake of folks up there and yourself included, that they get back to that national prominence.
I think that the conference is better with Tennessee being good, and I certainly think it would liven up what has been a very one-sided rivalry with Alabama. That Alabama-Tennessee game used to be huge, and Tennessee being bad has taken a lot of luster out of that. But I do think if the program's good in Knoxville, then the conference is better.
I agree. Dave, you're the best, man.
All right, thanks, Patrick. You guys, I miss Shreveport. Love you guys down there.
Shreveport, I'm out. Dave Foster, Fox 17 in Nashville.